I'm Ali, I'm one of the physios at sportsinjuryphysio.com. This is the third video in our series on greater trochanteric pain syndrome, lateral hip pain or outside hip pain. And this is going through some do's and don'ts of things that you might like to try and modify or change if you're feeling some of this outside hip pain. Now, the reason why I'm going to go through those is normally where this tendon is attaching into your greater trochanter. So if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, there is a video on the anatomy talking through how the glute tendons, your big buttock muscle tendons, muscles come around and attach into the outside bony part of your hip, and where they attach is where their tendon is. Quite commonly, this outside hip pain relates to a change in that tendon, which again we've discussed in previous videos, get my teeth in. And what we want to do now is discuss about why this might be happening. So normally you get a tendon problem because of either a change in its ability to address two different types of loads. The first load is tensile load, so how much activity it can withstand without causing pain or symptoms, or because of strength. And the second one is about compression, so how much it's stretched or something is compressing it. Thinking like a bruise analogy. So if something is pressing on a bruise, it's not going to calm down and go away. It's not causing really any problems or any damage pathology wise, it's just irritating it. If we remove the pressure off that bruise and that repeated pressing, it starts to calm down and feel a bit better. So these things are about trying to remove the compressive load on these tendons as they come around and attach onto the outside of our hip. Where our tendons attach, so right into a bone, is called the enthesis, and where that attaches there, it is more likely to be a compressive load than maybe a tensile load that is causing some of our symptoms, and therefore some simple tips about what to do can help with this. This is not a cure. This is not something that I would expect you to do and then do nothing else about it, because we also need to address the tensile side, the strength side, and what's going on and how robust your tendon is. And we need to address what activity you want to do and get you back to doing it. And this is something that can be done with exercise, which will come on in another one of our videos. So, in our previous video, we talked about, so the second video in this series, we talked about what symptoms I'd expect you to see and present to me. And if you haven't seen that one, please go back and watch. But these outside hip pains tend to stay around this part. So I'm just going to adjust so you can see me. And what we're looking at are certain postures. So if this outside hip pain is causing you some bother, what you could try is looking at how you stand, and how you stand in this position keeps everything nice and neutral. If you can see, if I cross my legs and come more into this position, I'm more likely to be stretching this outside part of my hip, and that stretch is more likely to give you a compression over that gluteal tendon. Another interesting way of standing, which is something I've done most of my life, and again I'll move you down so you can see, it's called a hip hang. And that hip hang is a really easy way of standing. We'll probably stand like it for a long time because we're not using a lot of muscles to do this, so it's quite energy efficient. But again, you can see it puts you in that stretch position or that compression element. One of the more common, if you are a male and suffering from this problem, that has been noted in the research, is if you tend to sit in certain postures. I'll bring my chair over and you can sit. So if you were to sit, for example, with your legs in a wider position on a regular basis, and that wider position means that you're getting a bit tight because you're not bringing your legs in, or keeping them in that position for a long time, or if you've got one of those saddle chairs which you sit on and tuck your legs underneath you, again that encourages that wider position, so again it encourages a bit of tightness through this outside hip. If you were then to go on and do an activity where that tightness becomes narrower, so that's more like cycling on a bike or running, you're coming from a position where your body's got used to and become a bit tight into a more neutral or a cross position where you then are compressing that outside. This also fits quite nicely with any of us that sit with our legs crossed. Again, it's causing that stretch or that compression through here, and it may be something we want to try and avoid in this short term. So have a think, do you sit or do you stand in any of these particular ways? Is there ways you can modify it or change? This is to say that you don't ever have to, that you never sit or stand like this ever again. But in the short term, while things are painful and sore, if we can relieve the pressure off that bruise, things feel a little more comfortable and calm down, and then we can gradually reintroduce this compression element, which means that you can get back to doing what you need to do in your life. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.